You ready to get started?
Well, we're ready. Let's rock and roll.
All right. Welcome back to Local Politics, Not Local Talent. This is the political show with my co-host, Kevin Haddis.
Good day. Today
in studio, we have the Mayor of Schertz, Ralph Gutierrez.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me aboard here.
Yes, sir. Ralph, you want to give everybody the quick elevator pitch, who you are, what you do, and who you do it to?
Well, retired Air Force. I retired from the U.S. Air Force, and then I started working for the U.S. Federal Courts. Retired back in 2016, and decided to, politics caught my interest. Different local issues that surface, and all of a sudden, hey, this isn't right. This isn't my vision.
Sure.
And ran for city council, and now I'm the Mayor of Schertz.
So you've been in the city for better than 30 years. You've lived here, right?
Yes.
So your political career, I guess that started over the last 6 years or so?
That is correct, yes.
So what kind of examples do you have, if you have any, that made you think, you know what, maybe I should run for council? What was happening at the time that made you want to?
Oh, I think it was the apartment complex on 3009. I think it brought a lot of people out.
Okay.
I just didn't think it was in the right place. Not that the apartment complex, we still needed multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you got to pick the right location.
Yeah. So, and then so I guess back then they were just letting you build wherever, huh?
Yeah, the proposal was on 3009, the busiest street in Schertz. I just didn't think it was the right place to put it.
Yeah. Did they end up building it there?
No, they didn't. They didn't.
That's right by where Kellum.
Yes.
Near there, right?
Right by the car wash, old abandoned car wash on 3009.
I'm curious to see what Mayor Gutierrez has to say about this. But in Selma, we have apartments and we need them because we need this workforce and people can't afford houses. I was listening to a podcast today and some guy wants to move to some Brooklyn or someplace in New York. And the houses there are $5 million. And he's like, you need to put $1.5 million down, and the house payments monthly are about $25,000 a month.
Oh,
and he's
my
like,
God.
And he's like, who's living in these houses?
Yeah, no, you're right. Multifamily is needed. The price of a home is just outrageous. Mm-hmm. It's over $350,000 in Schertz, the average.
Wow.
So just someone new starting off can't really afford to live in Schertz. Multifamily is needed. Mm-hmm. The big question comes, where?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest issue.
Schertz used to have 5 council members, right? And
right.
You were on the council at that time.
No. I actually came in when we went to 7.
When you went to 7?
Yes, we were at 5. During that time, we had 5 council members.
Mayor Carpenter was mayor at that time.
Yes.
And one of the questions I remember, because he asked me, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And we were just having a soda or something, and we were just talking, and it was kind of interesting because
I got to interject here. I can't see either one of y'all just sitting around drinking a soda.
We were having a beer.
Okay.
We were talking. I'm sure it was like at the Blue Bonnet driving range or something. Anyway, so with him though, what's interesting, with that is when he wanted to do it, his concern was always one election could completely change the direction of the whole city.
That is correct. When you have just 2 elections, the majority is being changed at one point. Mm-hmm. In this situation, with the way we have it, there is never a majority that is being replaced.
Oh, nice.
Well, and you need some of that because with the city manager, it's tough when boards or councils are constantly changing over. It's we've discussed term limits on this podcast before, but what happens is when there's turnover, that the city manager has to deal with a completely new boss, and they have like 7 bosses kind of, to a certain degree. But, in Selma, obviously Johnny will take my call anytime, and I'm sure Dr. Brown and Schertz will take any council member's call and
exactly
try to work through. But you put an agenda packet out and you could get 7 phone calls.
And it's a big challenge when you're coming in as a brand new council member, trying to get up to speed. It takes time. I think it took me at least 3 to 4 months to get very comfortable.
So would you say that being on the council would give you an advantage for whenever you decided to run for mayor?
Definitely does. Yes.
Because, like you just said, if you're coming into the council, it takes you a few months to get caught up. if you've been on the council for 3 years, which I think in your case that's what was the case, right?
Yes, that was the case.
And then you ran for mayor. It's it seems like you got a big head start as far as knowing what's going on with the city. Maybe not with the voters. I mean, that's all different conversation. But I mean, as far as being able to do the job,
how it functions,
yeah.
How your materials provided to you, what you need to get prepared for, all that. As a council member, you just the adjustments are very few. You run the show then when you're mayor, but those adjustments are the hardest thing to do at that point.
Are there term limits for? There's not term limits for the mayor. Is there term limits for the city council?
That's the voters. The voters will term you out if they don't like what you're doing.
The ultimate term limit maker, decider.
You know, when I came into office, I had 2 goals. One of them was a penny.
A penny?
And a smile.
A penny and a smile?
Yeah.
Just tell me about that.
Well, you figured tax rate. My goal was to reduce the tax rate 1 penny.
Okay.
And it's very difficult. You know, you would think a penny. I mean, most people avoid a penny on the floor.
Yeah.
You know, and here I am. I'm struggling to get our tax rate down by 1 penny. Managed to get it down 1/4 of a penny, and this coming year we're actually going to lower it about 1.5 pennies. So that goal is accomplished. Yes.
So did you have that goal when you went for council or mayor?
As mayor.
As mayor.
As mayor. And the other goal was a smile.
Okay.
Customer service.
Yeah.
I think a smile is contagious, and I always preach customer service because our staff basically our residents are the customers to the staff, and if we can get that customer service flowing in our staff, and it just it's more receptive with our residents and everything else that we do.
Yeah,
they'll love working, and
nobody wants to go to work someplace that everybody's pissed off.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to do that, but the other problem is like Mayor's saying, to get to a penny, man, it's great. It's a great feeling to lower it. I think when I got on council in Selma, it was like 27 cents, and I think we're down to 19 or something. But we rely heavily on sales tax, as it's no secret there. But in Schertz, had come to these budget meetings. I remember Scott Larson, the councilman, was on there, and he's always like, why do we need the vanity magazine? Why do we need to have 10 swimming pools? Why do we have to have, if we want to cut it, we're going to have to give up one of these things, but nobody would give anything up.
Yeah, it's very tough.
The council was like, well, we need the magazine, and and we need this, and we need that. And it's hard once you give government money. Yeah, it's hard for them to give it back. It's really hard.
Especially when 1 penny is equivalent to $500,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes a very tough decision. What are you going to cut if you want to save that 1 penny? You're going to cut a program. You're going to cut an extra police officer that you might need. It becomes a bigger decision than just that 1 penny.
Well, I can tell you, I have a house in Schertz, and my payment went up significantly.
It's those
Lock
appraisals,
the door.
yeah. The appraisals.
What's interesting is I didn't realize, Carpenter was explaining a little bit of this, and I didn't realize how much the state has involvement in that. Can you explain a little bit for anybody listening what? It wasn't you sitting back with your feet up on the table saying, you know what, we need to raise property taxes so we can get a new fire engine, right? So, can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, as you know, 60 miles up north is where they make all the rules sometimes, and it trickles down to all of us how we're going to handle some of these things. And the appraised value is basically the biggest impact they have. Appraisals went up. In Schertz about 40%. I mean, you had a house that was worth $200,000. Now you're at close to $300,000 that quickly.
Yeah.
That adds value, and that's where that additional income comes in from the property values. And we're set where we can't increase the tax rate at a certain level. So in this situation, we actually are forced to bring the tax rate down, and our goal was to try to maximize what is needed for our residents without putting the burden of that tax liability. But it still increased your tax bill.
Yeah,
your tax liability is still way up there, more than it was last year.
Well, more than it's ever been for me. It's incredible how. And my thing is this: is that I'm very fortunate, and I'm good in my career at this point. Where but that I can imagine there's people that can't afford it. My monthly payment went up $500.
Exactly. Families have to make adjustments. They have to adjust their budget. What are they going to cut? How many times are they going to go out and eat? They probably will cut one a week, or
Talk about cutting a meal.
Yeah.
Well, people are still out though. Like, holy cow! Like, you go places, it's packed everywhere.
It is.
You were talking to Jamie and Liz there, Mathis and Cibolo, and you took your girlfriend to
1908, yeah, and the kids, yeah, our kids.
You like it?
Yeah, it was good.
It's a nice little downtown spot. Well, but they were talking about cutting, having to change their pricing and eggs and bacon, and and they were talking about that, and that's every business owner right now is going through it. Where is downtown Schertz?
It's Main Street.
That's it, huh?
That's it, Main Street. Main Street is a challenge because there's so many small houses. I mean, these are houses back in the 1950s where they probably only needed 700 square feet of space. I mean, you really can't open up a restaurant with 700 square feet of space.
That's about the size you need for the kitchen.
Yeah. So it creates a challenge. There's so many different opportunities that are available for them too, that they can, the city's willing to provide some of those incentives so they can build up their property as a business, not as residential.
So do y'all have any kind of big, y'all have any HEBs coming up in Main Street there?
We have a lot of land between, from here to New Braunfels. We have about 5 acres, 5 mile stretch, limited commercial, very few businesses there. There's opportunities there, but challenges are infrastructure. The roads, the water, the wastewater, electricity, all that adds to the burden, the cost of doing business.
What do you see coming down the pipe?
Well, right next to Santikos, of course, is Evo. That's a whole different story on how that happened. But there's some interest. There's some proposals that were brought to my attention, and they actually wanted to see, get a feel for our city and some of the questions that they had, and put some ease to their mindset. Because it's a risk.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime you're going to do, regardless of where it's at, it's a risk. Not only that, the investment, the amount of money that needs to be invested to get to that place. So those are challenges that they're looking at right now, and hopefully within the next 3 to 4 months they'll bring back the proposal for planning and zoning to look at.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting. That there's a lot of land there to develop where Evo is, Santikos, and of course there's a lot of growth in Schertz that can happen on the south end. Because do you go all the way to I-10?
Yes.
Okay, so you butt up to Cibolo on I-10.
Yes, we actually 1518 all the way to I-10.
Okay.
The creek actually divides Schertz and Cibolo.
We were talking about construction a little while ago. Jason Wiederstein, I posted a question on Facebook. Anybody's got any questions for you, send them in. And Wiederstein brought up a couple of things. One of them, and he had brought this up whenever Mike Carpenter was on, but he's in construction in the area, and he actually says, is there anything that can be done about building permits issued in less than 60 days? Is that I know that the permit office over there has got a target on its back for some people.
Well, staffing.
Is that
that's part of the issue. We're adding more staff on this budget year. We also have a new application called City View.
Okay.
So when you submit your plans, you actually can look and see where they're at, what's been annotated. So you're able to see more exactly where your project is at that time.
That doesn't help it get through any faster.
Well,
though.
no.
That's like watching watching a pizza bake.
No, this is a really important question. When I got elected, and then I was hanging out a lot with Daryl John. He's the Guadalupe County tax assessor, and he goes, I think I'm going to run for city council in Schertz. I said, do it. I'll help you out. And I went and did like some events with him, and kind of went like did a little bit of door knocking. I was just kind of hanging out with him, helping him out. And man, he got more questions on the permitting department from business owners in Schertz, and it was like a big thing. And it concerned me. I was like, oh man, I've never built anything. I don't know what that's like. So I called our city manager, and I'm like, how come nobody says anything to us? And he's like, well, we use a third party and explained our process to it. But it's been a big issue in Schertz, which I believe is improving.
It's improving. Well, when you have permits for everything, for a garage sale, we took that out. I mean, that takes time from the staff. That's really not as important. Just have a garage sale.
Nice.
We had a permit for building the shed. As long as it's 10 by 12, you don't need a permit anymore. Mm-hmm. So those type of things. You try to take.
Is there a height restriction on that 10 by 12?
No.
This is my downfall is I ask questions like that because that's where my brain immediately goes.
No height restrictions. You just have to be 3 feet off the property line.
You have to get a permit for chickens if you put chickens in there, though. You need a permit to replace your air conditioner. You need a permit. I feel like Bubba Gump over here. Fried shrimp, bowl shrimp.
For a new roof, for a new water heater.
Yeah. I do think that continues to be the focus of the Schertz Council, and I know Mayor Ralph has kind of led some of that stuff because I did notice when you guys switched to the software, was it last year?
The City View actually went into effect in May this year.
This year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw some of that.
Are you able to communicate through that?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Nice.
You can file permits through that too. So
okay.
I don't know if this drives you nuts, but whenever I get plans or see plans, which I'm not an expert on it, but I can kind of get an idea of what's going on. And an engineer puts in a plan and goes through this process or whatever, and then they're doing a road project and they build a sidewalk to nowhere. Have you ever noticed that? There's a lot of that kind of stuff. And I think once you get engineers trying to just determine permits and working that, it's got to be
the
something.
first thing I see when I get those plans is where is it?
Where's the address?
Yeah, exactly. Where's the main road so I can determine what property we're discussing or what it is. That's the hardest part sometimes is I'm trying to get an angle at it so I can see exactly
big picture.
Yeah. But that's the first thing I try to analyze too is sometimes it might be the processes.
Mm-hmm.
It could be short of staff. Sometimes the processes, we have to look and see, are we working smarter?
If I was working in your office, I would like to have 20 garage sales to approve versus one very complex, building that's going to affect, traffic flow and all this other stuff. Just time. It takes time to go through those things.
It is. I mean, especially, garage sale compared to a $50 million structure, where are your priorities?
Well, some ordinances are put in place to enforce things that, people are upset about. So you can't tell people not to have a garage sale. I guess we could, but you can't tell people not to have them. What was happening is people, at least when we had that, the reason for it was there was some people in some neighborhoods were getting a lot of calls from the neighbors because they had a never-ending garage sale.
So how do y'all combat that with the garage sales?
Well, it would be very easy. I mean, you can have unlimited, but as soon as a neighbor starts saying, "Hey, you had too many," and they bring it to the city's attention, well, here's one.
Okay.
Next time they call it, there's number two.
Well,
once they have four, then you can't have any more.
Do you guys allow Airbnbs with a permit type thing?
Yes, with a permit. But like you said, there's very few of them that actually register with the city.
Well, the one in my neighborhood is there's tubers. So I'm sure they're looking for something. It's a little cheaper to stay here than New Braunfels. They're like, we'll just come, we'll just stay here. But the neighbors are like, hey, there's people with straw hats naked on top of the house and all these calls. And so then we have to obviously intervene. But that's an interesting thing in the suburbs. I'm sure it's a big issue in New Braunfels, obviously. But it's interesting that I was surprised. If I'm going to on a vacation, I'm,
Not going to Selma?
Well, I'm going to Selma shopping, but I don't know if I would stay in an Airbnb in the neighborhood,
What's the difference between, from a city standpoint, between somebody renting their house and then an Airbnb?
Airbnb is a business. Mm-hmm. They should be paying tax.
Oh, sales tax?
Yes.
And it's the duration of the stay. Renters normally stay for months. Airbnbs are shorter. I
shorter.
think I haven't read the ordinance, but I'm
Yeah.
sure that's how it's defined in there. Do you ever, like, when you're campaigning, or have you ever been to one of these pit pads and you're like, hey man, there's five pilots here. What's going on? Have you ever, do you get them voter registration cards, Mayor?
No. Or? No, but I stopped at one and they were having a barbecue doing my door knocking, and they invited me for a burger and the beer.
Nice.
Nice.
Did you go?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It was a hot day.
This is just the fuel I need.
Yeah, when you're campaigning and somebody offers you a beer or some food, you never say no. You're always like, because it's a big grind campaigning, and so
when you ran for city council versus when you ran for mayor, can you describe the differences in how you campaigned?
Big difference. When I ran for city council, I basically didn't know what I was doing, and I just brought yard signs, 100 yard signs. That was the whole extent of my expenses. Yard signs. But I went, met people, different functions, door knocking, the old-fashioned way. So that was basically it.
And then so you were like, it's time for me to step up.
There was a council member that had been there for 11 years. I've only been there for 2 when all this was when I found out that Michael was not considering running for re-election. And self-doubt came in, and I said 2 years compared to 11. And someone told me, you've done more in 2 years than he's done in 11. And I said, wow,
that's a great perspective.
Well, maybe because they hadn't seen him, and they always see me everywhere.
Yeah. And I do have a question to follow up with that. I mean, did you talk to your bride, Raquel?
Oh,
how was that conversation?
Let me tell you, she's my biggest critic. She's my biggest supporter.
Yeah.
She is my chief of staff. She's my image consultant. She's my damage control specialist.
No.
She's my everything. The city's fortunate that when they elected me, they also elected a big part of me, where she has really stepped up and helped me.
Well, so getting back to your campaigning, you had said that whenever you were campaigning as city council versus mayor, it was much different. You basically just had $100 in signs for your city council. But so when you started campaigning for mayor, right? What changed? What was different? I mean, you obviously knew more.
I knew, the exposure basically introduced me to a lot of individuals. They saw the impact I was having as a council member, and their support, just very generous support. They contributed to my campaign.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I didn't just have yard signs. I had bigger signs, the
nice.
4x4s and the 4x8s. I didn't have mailers when I was running for council. I didn't have door knockers. I was knocking on doors.
Yeah.
But this time you don't answer the door, I'm leaving something.
Yeah.
So it was bigger impact as mayor.
Do you think that whenever you were campaigning for mayor, did you spend more time door knocking? Did you spend more time getting out and trying to get out the word, or did you just do it more strategically?
Just as much time as council.
Same
Amount. You should give it your all.
Mm-hmm.
You're running for a council seat or mayor. You should give it your best.
Sure.
That's my way of thinking. Always do your best.
But when you ran for council, it sounds like 100 signs. Okay, so you spent some money there. What did you spend when you ran for mayor? It's all public record, so people can look this up if they have questions. Do you remember? It was a couple $1,000 type of thing.
Well, with there was several $1,000s that I got as mayor. Contributions came very generously. Yard signs, I got bigger yard signs. I didn't mail before. I did have the mailers. I didn't have the door knockers. Those type of things. So it gives you more of an opportunity to promote yourself throughout the city.
When you're doing mailers, do you do them in waves, or you just do them like one deal and done, or how do you?
Well, it all depends on.
There's some strategy.
I
don't think
and
he's
it all
gonna tell
depends
us.
on funding too. There's strategy behind it. You want to, at least 1 or 2 mailers. When I ran for city council, I didn't have any.
Okay.
I didn't have any. So.
Yeah, and I do the door hangers, color both sides, and that's what I did.
Yeah, I had a Facebook page too, and I would post some things on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. You politicians are always so tight-lipped on what your strategies are.
Well,
Carpenter was like, well, I can get you, for the paid version. I can tell you how I go about the.
Well, it's not that we're trying to be secret, because
I'm just
the
teasing.
best way to campaign is your way.
Yeah.
We all have different ways of campaigning, and the best way to do it is your way. What's your comfort level?
Yeah.
How are you going to approach this? So everything can be different.
Sure. Well, and different, effectiveness for different people. One strategy might not work for another person or whatever. If somebody's got a hard time walking, door knocking's probably going to be out the door.
Well, and Jason was saying that, and we had this guy ask a question about, if you're in the, essentially if you're in the, the pockets of businesses, or do businesses give you donations? And I'll answer that question.
Hold on. Let me ask the question first. So Andy Dominguez on Facebook, he says, could you ask him this? Who is his biggest campaign contributor, and and if those people have any business interests in the city of Schertz?
Very interesting question. Speaking of contributions, right now my bank account for contributions has a zero balance. so there really is
so if anybody wants to step up, that would be much appreciated.
There's strategy behind that too, I guess, with all the contributors, is that until the deadline approaches, most people are just going to step back and see who's running against you.
Yeah.
So the deadline is on Monday, the 22nd of August at 5:00. So I hope I hope I can count on your contributions so that we can start working on the campaign. But we are not, as public figures, we cannot accept donations from corporations. It has to be individuals.
Whenever you're getting contributions, is it, you're not like shaking the hand of a person who's giving you a check. Is there like a GoFundMe or something? Like, go to my Facebook page and
it could be that easy too. Someone giving you an envelope with some money in there. But most of it should go to your campaign treasurer.
Okay.
That's what the funds should be going to.
I got a sneaking suspicion I know who that is.
Well, well, the other part is that you have to disclose all those donations.
Yes, you do.
$5, it doesn't matter. Everything. Mayor's records for every election he's running.
Every election.
You can pull the campaign finance reports and stuff like that.
Oh man, Joel Hicks, I did a sign for him like as a favor. Just I gave him something, and he's like, I got to put a value on this, and I got to show it as a contribution or a donation. Or I was like, dude, are you serious?
Yes,
that's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty. Where does somebody go to find that information?
It'll be on our Schertz.com homepage.
Well,
just go under elections, and we'll have everybody. What you spend, you have to account for everything you spend, and every donation that you get, whether it's cash donations or in-kind donations.
And you have to file reports quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
So I closed my campaign. I don't have a campaign open, so I don't have to do that anymore because I only had less than $500 anyway. I didn't even set up a bank account, but you have to do that.
And I figured if you contribute to my campaign, you're contributing to this campaign.
Yeah.
So I try to spend every penny that is donated. In fact, last year I spent an extra $5 and something change.
Make sure it was all gone.
Yeah. That's why it was given to you for this campaign. That's my mindset. I said you didn't provide these funds for next
the next
election.
Well, you can though if you have money in your campaign,
yes.
you can donate it to another campaign. So you could donate it to the campaign to reelect stuff.
But I think what like Ralph was saying though, if I gave him $10 for his campaign and then he's got a war chest and then he decides to give it to somebody in council, that's like kind of a slap in the face to me, or not a slap in the face, but just like hey, I contributed to Ralph, not the guy that Ralph supports. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. But that happens all the time.
Yeah.
I'll bet it does
all the time.
And that's mainly at the end of someone's at the end of someone's career in politics.
I was looking something up one time on that, and I noticed Kevin Wolf gave Donna Campbell some money, and Donna gave Kevin Wolf's campaign some money, and it was like an even swap. And I was like, that's just kind of an awkward, Did he give her the money and she just gave it back to him? I don't want it. Or it was kind of weird. I was like, what's going on? I think they were just being like, generous to each other or something, trying to, it was just one of those eyebrow raising things like, what's going on here?
But when it comes down to individuals doing business in our city, they're individuals, and sometimes the business or what they're doing is basically, you may not have any knowledge of that it's their land.
Right.
So sometimes I don't want to say we're ignorant of the fact, but sometimes we don't know all the particulars why this money's coming in.
We're about halfway done. You want to do a lightning round?
Yeah, let's do it.
Pick a color. You got one of these 4 here. You can pick red, blue, green, or black.
I'll take the blue one.
These have nothing to do with politics. They have nothing to do with really anything.
Did you pre-shuffle these?
Yes, I did pre-shuffle them.
Okay.
So yeah, answer them however you want. Just remember, you pick the deck.
Ooh.
Oh boy. I don't know. I don't know if I could answer this one because it's kind of just awkward. But if you could look through one person's email without them knowing, whose email would you look through?
City managers.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. What about you?
Hunter Biden.
Yeah, I would.
He's talking about the whole big thing. I'd like to see his emails too.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
I'm thinking local. He's thinking very up high there.
Actually, I don't want to read through nobody's stuff. I don't have enough time.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that hard to read his emails because he leaves his laptop at pawn shops everywhere. You know,
he wants to see the laptop, not the emails.
Yeah. What do you think is the most unpleasant sounding word?
The F word.
Really?
Yeah, I don't use it at all. Very seldom. If you hear me say the F
there's
word,
a problem.
There's an issue. I'm not much of a. I really don't cuss that much.
What is something you get wrong almost every time you do it?
I have a saying. The only time, when I talk to my wife, the only time I'm right is when I said I was wrong.
There you go. Mm-hmm. What's the funniest, most disappointing, weirdest text you've received?
I get those on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are humorous when they see you as a mayor and they think that you have a lot of pull. But there's very little pull in another city, especially in Waco. When their son's in jail and they want me to go out there and help him, I said, it's out of my jurisdiction.
Is that serious? Is that serious?
Yeah. Oh, there's always things like that surface. That's That's a funny part of it. I said, "Are you kidding?" Is one of those things that I put in my email drop. I keep all my emails, and it's one folder, and it's labeled, "Are you kidding?" and I put everything in there saying, "Yeah." It's just I had a customer service issue. They wanted to complain about an eatery that they went to, and they wanted me to take care of it because they were handled the wrong way.
The most important question, and this is probably the most important thing, you're going to run again for mayor.
Yes. I submitted my documents to file for, re-election.
Is anybody running against you?
Yes, I have drawn an opponent, but it's still too early. I mean, Monday's actually the day where you actually
D-Day. We'll know on Monday.
Yeah, I do have an opponent. I might have a second or third. You never know, and that's why I say the campaign really starts on Tuesday.
Okay.
My signs are already going up. Hopefully to discourage some.
It seems like with your accomplishments, and I guess this is another segue. So congratulations on your serving out your first term and running a second time. I think you're going to do just fine. But the thing about it is for some reason, the mayor of Schertz always has an opponent.
The mayor has always had an opponent. A place here or two may not have one, but the mayor always has had an opponent.
Mm.
And hopefully my accomplishments is a testament of the work that I put in. I mean, when I took office as mayor, 2 months later, we had COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was just at a standstill. You have the 4th of July coming in, and most people don't realize that we plan for the 4th of July months in advance. Mm-hmm. And in May, I had to make the decision: we're going for it or not. And I had to just say no. At this point, that's when COVID was at its peak. Mm-hmm. We don't know what worked. We don't know what did work. So we just canceled the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Well, and it was scary too because, and this is, I'm really glad you're talking about this, is because what information and who were you? I would, of course, Mayor Daley would be on the phone call with Nelson Wolf and Judge Wolf in Bexar County and Kyle in Guadalupe County, and the Comal phone calls, I guess, with Krause, I guess, was on those. But you know, he'd get frustrated with Bexar County sometimes after a while. But in the beginning, it was really like, what is going on? They shut down the bars and, you know, what? If we, you know, and if you don't sell food, you can't open because you're a bar and you're going to get COVID unless you have food. That whole thing was just so weird. But who was giving you, because you're not a scientist or anything, you just have to make the best decision off of what the people around you that are telling you. You don't have time to go research, you know.
We don't.
Well, even if you did, what research would you pull on something that's never happened before? You know what I mean?
So you had to make some decisions early on, like canceling the 4th. You didn't cancel. And Mayor Gutierrez canceled Independence Day.
Yeah.
You didn't cancel the day still exists, the festivities.
Yes.
And we had to cancel our fireworks here at Retama. Well, Retama canceled them because of the fire danger this year. I mean, things happen in government. But who was like, did you have like a crack team that was helping you make decisions during COVID, or how did that?
Well, the thing about it is, like Mayor Daley and myself, we are in 3 different counties. We're being pulled in 3 different directions, being given instructions on how we're going to address that portion of our city.
Yeah.
So we were being, you know, well, if you go here, you got to do this. If you go here, you got to do this. So it was so confusing. But in Schertz, we also had our emergency management team that met on a every other day basis so that we would be kept abreast as to what's going on, what the changes are. And we made our plans based on that. But there were some things we could not change. Whatever the county judge had indicated, that was our procedure at that place. Events that we had to cancel. Like I said, we canceled the festivities for the 4th of July, but then I said, we need to celebrate the 4th. And all of a sudden we have Project Flagline. You saw the parkway with the flags, 6,000 flags. I remember going there to the city manager and saying, I need some flags. And he tells me, how many do you need? I said, about 6,000. And he looks at me, what? And I said, you better make it 7 in case my calculations are off. So we got 7,000 U.S. American flags, and we lined the Schertz Parkway on both sides of the street from I-35 all the way to 78.
I remember that. I remember that being on Facebook.
No, they still do it. It's impressive. It's like we're just going to drive. It's one of the things that in Schertz, one of the things that they do that it's just, I'm in awe of. It's awesome.
Yeah. The cost up front was just the flags, and we used them already for 3 years straight.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
The first year we started at 7:30 and finished at 8:30 at night. This past year we had so many volunteers.
Very nice.
And we started at 7:30, and within 1 hour we were done.
Well, see, then after you canceled Independence Day.
Yeah.
After you had to shut down the festivities on the 4th of July, which I'm sure was a very tough decision. You have your team, emergency management, county judge, you're talking to people, they're giving you this stuff. When did you start the shot clinics?
The shots started in January, but we were preparing for the shots in June, almost 6 months before we gave our first one. We realized that we needed special refrigeration for the Pfizer vaccine, and the cost was $10,000 for a refrigerator.
Really?
Yes.
It has to be refrigerated differently than the other ones?
Yeah. So we went ahead and purchased the refrigerator for him, and just waiting. We showed that we had the facilities to maintain the vaccine, and they came down and gave us 5.
Who's them?
The state of Texas.
Okay.
So they gave us $500 for first responders. So the first thing was, hey, let's get our first responders from the area. It doesn't matter what city you were at. This was for first responders. And I remember they said, Mayor, we consider you a first responder. You need to be on the first dose. And I said, no, it's for first responders.
Sure.
Take care of them. And that was my plan, except they called me on Saturday and say, hey, there's more fluid on these little vials that we need more arms. So there I am. I was one of the first ones to get it, only because there was more.
Yeah.
In fact, each vial had an extra dosage.
Wow.
So we had to find 50 extra arms to put it on.
Really interesting.
And you were at all the shot clinics, so it made sense for you. I mean, you were there like calling residents and elderly folks, immunocompromised people, or whatever your target was. You were like actively working the phones and stuff yourself.
Yes. There was several different approaches that we had started out with. First, it was just we opened it up to the on the internet. Registration was on the internet when they awarded us with 1,000 vaccines. We put it on the internet. In less than 2 minutes, all 1,000 were gone. I couldn't even register my wife.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and at that time, or at least the months leading up to that, we'd get on calls with the chamber, the Schertz Cibolo Selma chamber, and Maggie would host these Zoom calls, and she'd have Michael Beaver on with Northeast Methodist Hospital, and Michael would come on, and he's a well put together guy. I mean, he's a natural leader. I think he's going to chair that organization next year, but he would come on and he was saying, we're postponing surgeries. We don't have any room. We're, it was a scary time because if there was some sort of airplane crashed into, into 20 houses or something, there was nowhere to bring these people.
Right. Yeah. When you took office as mayor, you'd mentioned earlier a couple of your goals, a penny and a smile. What other expectations did you have, and versus reality, what's happened with those expectations?
My biggest concern when I took office is Southern Schertz. When I was door knocking, they were all asking for retail. They are looking for restaurants, eateries. Nothing's out there still.
Southern Schertz, south of 78.
South of 78.
Down 1518.
Yeah, there's only a Dollar General.
Yeah.
Door knocking, everybody was concerned. And I looked at it very carefully and determined that I didn't need to start bringing in retail. The issue had to be bringing in the rooftops. Retail will follow.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to invest if they don't have
enough people
to bring to their establishment. So that was my biggest goal.
Okay.
Is trying to bring more rooftops. And one of them was a developer that came in and he was frustrated. He wanted to build something. And I told him to go through the process. Go through the process. I had the city staff talk to him, and I thought we worked things out. It went to planning and zoning, and they voted 7-0 against it. They didn't want it. Also, because our staff denied, had a recommendation of denial. So he called me up, and I said, "Continue to go through the process. Go through the process. I'll work on it. I'll work on it." So when it came to council, there was 13 reasons why the city staff recommended denial. And I also was facing 7-0 on planning and zoning. Well, when it came to me and I opened it up, I normally don't speak during the council meetings. I think I really don't have a vote.
Right.
So I opened it up and I actually started with 26 reasons why we should have it.
Oh.
So instead of 13 against it, I'm giving you 26 reasons why.
Nice.
And council had their questions, and council voted, and it was 7-0 for the development.
Well, it's scary a little bit, being elected. You guys have had some issues in Schertz, different things over the years, and passionate people were coming to your meetings, and we run them through a metal detector in Selma. Do you guys do that in Schertz?
Yes, we do. Yeah. Sometimes emotions could be very high.
I have a question. What is the NEP? Because from an outsider, it sounds kind of like organized crime. It sounds like you guys are like...
It's organized cities.
So the Northeast Partnership, explain to me what that is and what your role in it is.
Well, I just got recently elected as a chair for the Northeast Partnership. It's a organization of 13 cities in the northeast portion of San Antonio.
How long has this organization been around?
I'm not sure exactly when they got incorporated. Probably back in 2012. If I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. It's been around for 10 years. But I think the biggest thing is that, when you talk about money coming down the pipes from
State.
Austin, and all of a sudden you have San Antonio, big player,
Yeah.
big pool, big muscles.
Sure.
They get all the money.
Okay.
Combining our forces, even the smallest cities, we become a force with 13 mayors.
Okay.
How many people?
There's
200,000-300,000.
there's about 300,000 that
In the 13 cities?
In the 13 cities, somewhere around there. So it becomes a
Wow.
force.
200,000. That's not a bulk at.
And it's also really good that the mayors get together and talk.
Mm-hmm.
Like little issues, arise between our cities, and
It gives us an opportunity to get together as mayors, whether or not, Stash and Cibolo and Schertz have worked on several different projects.
Mm-hmm.
And there's projects that we back each other because the impact, 1103 is mainly on Cibolo,
Mm-hmm.
but the impact it has on Schertz also. And we have to support each other on some of these projects.
Yeah.
So we it gives us that opportunity to get together on a informal basis and discuss some of the issues.
the project that comes to mind recently that everybody's been taking advantage of, and it's made a world of difference for the people of Cibolo, and is the Cibolo Parkway project, that deal that when Mike Carpenter and Stosh got back together in the day, and then that was finished on your watch, right?
Yes.
The work was completed, and that's the nicest part of Cibolo Parkway.
Yeah.
And it's in Schertz. But the two cities came together and they found a way to work it out, because traffic in the morning would back up from the interstate all the way back a mile.
So the Northeast Partnership, that's
that's right.
It's a bargaining. I guess it's it's primarily directed towards the state of Texas.
Yes, it is for funding.
Does Schertz have a water utility that you guys run, or is that a separate? How does that work?
The water from for Schertz comes from the Schertz again Local Government Corporation. It's we get our water from Carrizo Springs, the majority of the water.
Okay, but do you guys handle the other end? The other end of the plumbing, the water treatment?
Yeah, CCMA handles that, yes.
And is that part of Schertz, or are they their own organization?
They're their own organization. Yeah, but it's in Schertz. The plant is in Schertz. The Schertz again, SSLGC is what we call it. They actually, that was back in '94 is when it all started. We had big water restrictions back in '94. I don't know if you all remember that. There was a lot of water restrictions, and Schertz was struggling to get water from Sauls. And the mayor at that point, Hal Baldwin, went with Cibolo and some others went, try to get some funding for a new water supply. Cibolo dropped out, so it's only Schertz and Seguin, but we control our own destiny with our own water. You got to look at water as the most precious resources that we have. I mean, it's needed for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And 98 is when they build the pipeline to bring water to Schertz.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
But electric, you have two different electric companies. You have CPS, and then on the other side you have Guadalupe Valley.
That's correct. Depending where you live, you'll have either CPS or Guadalupe Valley.
And CPS charge too much, or they have all this extra money. And I was watching the news last night, and I saw that they may not give it back to the ratepayers, only to the ratepayers in San Antonio. So Schertz and Northeast Partnership may want to send a letter, but it is their money, so they own the utility, and so they collect. If there's overage, then the taxpayers are the ones that own the utility, so it's their money to do with whatever.
Looking back at your last 3 years as mayor, what would you say is the number one thing you wish you'd known before becoming mayor?
It had to be COVID basically shut down everything. And I think if I knew exactly how things function, because I only had 2 months in, and all of a sudden half my staff is working from home. I really can't, communication was kind of difficult at that time, trying to get everybody together. I always think that communication is the key.
Yeah. I agree.
And there's so many obstacles. Even if you want to advertise something, you're not going to hit everyone.
Yeah.
So it's to me, that's my biggest learning experience, is that there's always going to be some kind of communication factor that that's an obstacle that you have to overcome.
You don't go into your mayor's office every day, I'm sure.
Oh, I do.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
Man.
I do. Every day I'm in the office.
Are you really?
Yes.
Oh, well, I don't think Daly goes in very often. Although he's got a new office, so I
there probably has been very few days I have not been there.
What do you do to relax?
I am a runner. I love to
Really?
run. Yes. I ran a
Questions for you.
yeah. I run half marathons.
Really?
I have not ran a full marathon in years because that takes training.
Sure.
To run a full marathon, I have to train and find out where I need to take my
I don't think I could run out of
my
this room.
carbs, my protein, and all that. I could run a half marathon on just water.
Did you start running in the military?
No, I ran in high school. I ran cross country. In fact, cross country state champions.
You're a state champion?
Yes.
Where'd you go to school?
Bel Air High School in El Paso.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
So
obviously, we're friends and stuff. I was at your last campaign party. There's no secret there. I think you've done a great job at mayor. You've been through some challenges. Sounds like you're going to have a change in city manager.
yes.
Are you guys up?
We have advertised it. I think we just closed the window for submissions. We have 44 candidates.
Oh my
Our
goodness.
packages, we just received our packages yesterday, so it's time to just review the resumes and start winding down the number.
What was up with the deal in the paper about the paper? Like I read the paper. It was a news article that I saw online about somebody who's destroying evidence. Can you talk about that at all, or no?
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind talking about that. We had a consultant come in and look at some of the evidence that we had, and they started destroying some of the material they had there.
Is that normal?
It is, but first you got to get the order signed by the district attorney. They missed that step.
Oh man!
So I don't think there would have been any argument because these were old cases.
Sure.
The fact that they didn't go through the right step, and
that's why it was a big deal.
that's why it was a big deal. We destroyed evidence without
Approval.
the approval.
Well, it was a big number.
Yeah.
Oh my God! 9 million people are getting let out of jail, or the way they
Of course,
the way
it's
they
fun.
spend it.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
1,400 cases. I think it affected. Half of them didn't even have a suspect. It was just evidence.
What kind of third party organization
Makes that mistake.
Well, no, not that. What kind of third party organization is there that this is what they specialize in, is destroying evidence in the city? Is that like retired police officers or something?
Yes, there's consultants for everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair enough. So is that what these people are, basically a
that's-
consultant?
Yes.
And it's smart to hire them because you don't want to hire somebody full time to come in and do a short project, or even
Yeah.
Right.
even some long term consulting, or like using an engineer firm for your permits or whatever. That they turn it around. If they don't want to do it, you're not firing you're firing the company.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of companies that do that kind of stuff. So it's like,
And there's criteria for when you destroy some of the information. For instance, a homicide case, you would never destroy that information.
Yeah, that's
but you have a misdemeanor or something like that. You certainly are not going to keep that.
speeding ticket. If there was any evidence, you would. Okay, we can get rid of this.
There's things that they just stay there and
Take up space.
and take up space. Mm-hmm.
Create more resources to sift through when you need it.
Well, that's why it came to light, and all of a sudden it is exposed that Schertz did this, and I was briefed on it, and I said we need to brief council. Let's bring it up on a closed session. Tell them what they want to do, and council decided hey, it was our bad. Let's go ahead and do a use release and let them know what we did wrong in this situation.
So how was that brought to light? Who brought that to whose attention that there was a step missing in this process?
The district attorney for Guadalupe County.
So the district attorney says, "Hey,
wait a minute, stop! You're destroying evidence. I haven't given you the okay."
Oh, so it wasn't like some secret undercover citizen who discovered something. The district attorney was like, "Hey, I'm supposed to be signing this
Cease and desist." Yeah, cease and desist. Here you go. Don't do it. Stop. And of course that's made public already because he signed an actual document. So then someone picked it up and said, "Whoa, what's going on in Schertz?" And
It's amazing.
Did you call the consulting firm? You personally? I mean, did you have a talk with them?
We have spoken to him.
Okay. I asked Henry Cuellar. I know him You've talked to him several times, and I was like, I had to ask him about the IRS agents. And so I said, what is up with these 87,000 new IRS agents? And he goes, no, that the media is wrong on that, and there's news stories, but nobody wants to talk about it because there's so much stuff going on. He's like, that we are not hiring 80,000 new IRS agents. We were at 94,000. We brought it down to 67, and we're probably going to replace 5,000 to 10,000 more to get it closer to 87,000. So they had a bigger IRS. They brought the number down, and they're trying to get back to that number.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I ever received, it had to be my cross country time in high school. When I was a freshman, I didn't make the team. But my coach said, continue to run, do your best, and don't worry about what everybody else says. And that's pretty soon. I mean, from not making the freshman team and then coming back my sophomore year, making the varsity team, it just, things can happen if you work at it.
Good advice.
My coach told me, don't be last. And there was no varsity cross country. It was just, hey, we need some volunteers.
Oh, we had a question about chipseal.
Oh, yes, we did.
Might as well ask it.
Yes, Laura McFarland asked on Facebook. She said, who's the person that decided chipseal would be a good idea for neighborhood roads?
We have so many roads in Schertz, over 200 miles of road, and you have to find a way to balance what needs to be done. And we certainly don't want to take out a 30-year bond to fix a road that will only last 20 years.
Yeah.
So we tried different ways, different methods. Some of them will work. In some cases, chip sealed was put in the neighborhood that had too many cul-de-sacs. It didn't work. So we had to go back and take care of it. In other places, it will work based on the elevations and, So with time, it gets smooth. But at the beginning, no, it is one of the worst things that you can have. And I sympathize with what they go through in that situation. But we have to work smart in some situations and try to do the best. We did pave Old Wiederstein. The whole project was supposed to be $18 million from Cibolo Valley to 1103. We did half a stretch for under $70,000 using our own crew.
So what parting words of wisdom would you give to anybody that wants to be in local politics, city council, mayor, whatever?
The minute you decide to run, you are under a microscope. Your whole life is going to be turned upside down.
Skeletons in the closet, here they come.
And yes, exactly. And I applaud those individuals that want to come out. It is an experience, but it's a rewarding experience also that you get to shape your city and you have a vision on how the city should move forward in.
What question didn't I ask, or didn't we ask? What question were you prepared to answer that we didn't ask?
The Rayford incident, the young man that got beat up at the front door, supposedly. But what happened is that he was driving down the parkway. He went through a red light. Lights go on. You think he's going to pull over at the Valero station right there on the parkway. He turns left and he floors his Mercedes. He must be going 80-something miles an hour because our patrol car, you can see it on the video, our patrol car is hitting 77, and that Mercedes is just
getting away from him. Huh?
Yeah, out of sight. Well, he turns into the neighborhood where he lives. He drives up to the parkway. Our police officers are right behind him, tell him to come out with your hands up. He does, but then he starts to run.
Towards the front door.
Towards the front door. But as he's running, he throws down one of our police officers. She's cut. She's bleeding. Broken hand. And he runs to the door and he starts yelling, "Daddy, Daddy, let me in. Daddy, Daddy,
Oh,
let me in."
man.
And that's all the Ring camera picks up.
Mm-hmm.
And before we know it, I got briefed on it the next day. And I said, okay, no big deal. It's just normal arrest.
Mm-hmm.
In 2 days, it was national news.
He didn't want to comply with the arrest, so, they had to physically restrain him.
Yeah. So that hit the news, and before I knew it, we had a council meeting where Black Lives Matters, chanting, the tension was just high. And it was not one of my brightest moments because all that shows up is that the mayor bangs his gavel 3 times. Well, I had to bang it more than 3 if I could, just to get some order in that chamber. But nothing worked.
No.
And I see that as not as my proudest moment because I lost a little bit of my composure.
Sure.
Because like I said, I had the chanting going on, the signs, the fists, the one fingers, and I had kids that were there, and the tension was high.
There are some problems in our country, obviously. And this was a time when a lot of that stuff was going on. So people immediately judge, Schertz, and,
Mm-hmm.
and so the arrest was rough, but the young man wouldn't comply.
Yeah, he wouldn't comply. Mm-hmm.
And so, if you're being arrested, you have to comply. You don't argue anymore. Once they say you're under arrest or stop, we're going to handcuff you. Once you're detained, you don't get to say anymore.
This lasted for weeks. Every week they would come to our council meetings. But the irony is that everybody that came, none of them lived in Schertz. So that tells you exactly what our citizens think of our police department. So I found that very gratifying that no one that would sign up during the hearing the residents, they were not from Schertz.
Well, hell, you got anything else you want to add?
Well, I could talk. I feel like I could talk to Ralph for hours.
This is so different than other conversations I had. You guys have really made me feel very comfortable.
Good.
Really?
Good.
Yeah.
Ralph, I appreciate you coming down today. I really
thank
do.
you, Jason. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.